In today's video, I head over 200 kilometres into some of Scotland's most wild and beautiful landscapes, through some of its most amazing glens and through its mountains. And it wasn't easy either, as you'll see from the footage. Anyway, let's cut to me on my bike heading into the mountains. Welcome to Scotland and welcome to the Cairngorms National Park, where I'm hoping to cover about 200 kilometres in the next few days. Let me spin you around. Hopefully you can see to the left of the picture these two mountains, and there's a pass. This is going to be the first pass that I go through, and I need to get up to about 500 metres. I have been cycling for a wee while, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop here and get a bite to eat and I'll tell you more. But what a place. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be all wild camping. I brought all my food, all that stuff with me, all that good stuff. So yeah, let me just stop up here. I'll come back to you in a minute. Right, just going to stop here and get a wee bite to eat. But as I said, this is the first pass. It's called the Gaick Pass. There's a couple of stories here actually. The first story is this path I've been on before is where I broke my arm. I was coming to do the two Corbetts which sit on either side of the Gaick. I think it's Lochin Dun, I can't remember, there's a Lochin up here. Anyway, there are a couple of stories about this pass which I'll come on to in a wee while, but let's get a bite to eat and I'll tell you a wee bit more about what the plans are. So what are the plans? Well, as I said, I think it's just under 200 kilometres depending on what route I take. And it's right around the Cairngorms National Park. Some of the parts I've been to before, but there's some parts I've never been to, and they're pretty wild and remote places. And there's a few things that are concerning me. One is river crossings. Luckily there was a bridge there, that was the first one. Two is the weather. It's been high pressure for weeks and weeks and weeks. And of course it broke last night and it's a northerly wind and snow is forecast. And three, we're about a month away from the shortest day. So there's not much daylight, it's getting dark. Well, the sunset's around about 4 o'clock, so there's not much in the way of daylight hours. So there's a few things that I need to take into consideration. But for now, let's get my jacket on and something to eat. Oh, right, I've not come much further on. You can see the pass, the Gaick Pass up there. And I'm going between these two Corbetts, these two steep-sided mountains. But I thought I'd stop here and tell you the first story. Over here is an old lodge. It's actually in ruins now. I didn't realise it had gone to ruin. But apparently Bonnie Prince Charlie stopped there. It was an inn, and he stopped to have some tea, I think. Don't quote me on that. Some historian will be shouting at the telly, saying it's not there, but apparently he stopped at this lodge. I don't know if that was before, when he was on his way to raise the army, or afterwards, or what have you. Anyway, but apparently he stayed at the lodge. I tell you what, it's cold, it's not much above freezing. And the next story about this area actually, that I was going to tell you about, is about General Lade. They were actually going to use the Gaick Pass to put the road through the Highlands, but because of its steep-sidedness, it was prone to avalanche, so they decided to go up the Drumuchter Pass instead. And that's where the A9 still runs today. So that's another story. The next story about the Gaick Pass, I'll tell you, but it relates to the avalanches. Back in the days when we still got avalanches, or snow. I suppose back in those days it was still in the little ice age, and the winters were a lot colder. But I'll bring you back further up and I'll tell you that next story. I'll tell you what, my fingers are freezing. It was indeed cold, and I certainly didn't want to fall into the water here, and this was the first stream crossing of the trip. The first of many. And although it doesn't look too bad here, those slabs were a bit slippy and it wasn't as easy as it looked. Anyway, I was soon across and glad of my dry feet. Well, the sun's come out, as you can see, and I had to do my first river crossing. It was really slidey actually. There was slabs going down into a small part of water, but it was slippy as hell, especially with the big heavy bike. And I've had a gear failure, which I'll tell you about in a minute, which I'm really disappointed on, with parts of my new gear. Yeah, so I've bought a few new bits for the bike. And the pannier racks, which I was really looking forward to using, have started to shear away. There's a weak spot in them, which is a bit disappointing. So I've had to rearrange how I've attached them. This isn't the recommended way, but it's helping them stay together because they were pulling apart, which is disappointing. But anyway, as I said, first river crossing, and this is just a narrow stretch. Probably bikeable if you're a good mountain biker, but I'm just biking at the moment. And I know there's a couple of river crossings at the end of the loch, so let's get there. I think I might stop for a bite to eat. I'm a bit behind schedule. It's about midday now, and I've done 28 kilometres. That's a long, it's still 170 to go. Right, let's go.
I pushed the bike along the side of Loch and Doon, and there's small sections which I could ride, but progress was much slower here, as you'd expect, as I was pushing it as opposed to riding. And yeah, there was another stream crossing, but yeah, it was soon time to stop for a bite to eat.
Right, 5 to 12. I'm actually just going to stop here and get something to eat between the two lochs. I'm really disappointed about these. Quite worried about them as well. I have to keep an eye on them because that's happened before I went on single track. So anyway, still got a bit to go. I've still to tell you the story about the snow and the avalanche. That's a wee tip of what's coming. But for now, let's get a coffee and some Scotch eggs and a wee rest. 30 kilometres in and been going for about 3.5 hours. So, whew, right. I'm looking forward to this coffee and a Scotch egg. So, yeah, I think I wasn't sure how far I would get today, but I'm going to try and get to somewhere called Loch Morlich, which is through the forest. I might have to ride in the dark. It's going to get dark about 4 or 5 o'clock. But if I can get there, that's about 75, 80 kilometres in, so that'll be good to get that far. But let's see. Let's get fueled up. I've not really had too much to eat. I had a banana and a pork pie, and that's it. But what a place this is, eh? Right. Coffee time. How beautiful is this place? It feels very remote, and it's a windy today, but the sun's kind of coming out as the clouds scud by and the hills are all being illuminated. It's just, what a place. And my memory of here, apart from having a very sore broken arm, because I still did the Corbets, was dropping really steeply down. Oh no, I went up this one first. Yeah, I remember going up this one. Yeah, can't remember the name of it. Went up that one first, and I've never seen so many deer in my life. And then steeply down here, on that side, across the river, and then straight up there. It's just one of the characteristics of the Cairngorms. It's when you're up high, it's the high plateaus, but the plateaus have these deep clefts that are cut into them, and this is one of them. And you can see why they thought about putting a road through here, but again, you can see why they didn't, because of the avalanche risk. Very, very steep-sided slopes. Yeah. Anyway, going to get my bike packed away again. Hopefully these pannier racks are going to be all right. That could be a showstopper. And I'll bring you back when I'm at the next point of the story, which is Gaick Lodge. I'll tell you the wee story about that in a wee while. Right, let's get going. I'm behind schedule. I can see me cycling into the night. Right, let's get all this mess away.
It was time to head on, and from this point the track was a lot better. It was more of a 4x4 track, so I could get back riding again through this amazing landscape. And the high point of the Gaick Pass is round about 500 metres. So yeah, it was nice to get cycling again, and it's such an amazing area. As you can see, it's just hemmed in by these steep sided slopes. And a wee bit of history is when people and the drovers used to come through the Highlands, there was lots of different passes. This was one of them. As I mentioned earlier, the Drummugter Pass was another. And those who didn't have much money would often come through the Gaick, even though it was at a higher risk of avalanche in the winter, because there was no tolls, unlike the Drummugter Pass where there was tolls. Anyway, this wee schematic shows how tightly packed the contours are round about here. But it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. And yeah, it was certainly nice today at this point, although that was about to change, as you'll see in a little while.
Right, I am not far from the Gaick Lodge, which is where the story happened I want to tell you about. Before I get there, I don't know if you can see behind me, the clouds are coming in and the hills are disappearing. I think it's going to start snowing. Look at this coming towards me over here. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a big wall of white and it's coming round the hill there and over the top, and yeah, that's definitely snow. It's either that or it's sleet. It's raining at the moment, but oh my god, this looks like it's going to just descend on me. Oh, there's an eagle up there. You'll not see it. But this looks a bit foreboding, doesn't it? Look at that. Right, I'll bring you back in a minute. Hopefully the camera's picking this up. Oh, now watch what I'm doing here. Going to come off a bike, bit rocky descent. People look at the snow. Hopefully it's not on for the day. Oh, woo-wee. Pretty wet stuff though. It's not a nice big 50 pence. Pieces of it is to get colder, so this is what I've got ahead of me. It's snowing now. It's pretty much going to snow in a few days and the temperature's to drop. Ah. So just over here, where you can see it, the white buildings, that's Gaick Lodge. And the story was, there was 4 gentlemen out. They were either shooting game or deer or something. It was the last day of 1799, turn of the century. Oh dear, I've got to stop. Hopefully you still hear it. And yeah, they came out here. I think there's a few different reports, but one of them was that they were shooting venison for New Year. Yeah, and a massive avalanche came down. I don't know if it was these hills over here or the hills behind me into the building they were in and killed 4 of them. I think they were maybe colonels in the army. Anyway, just shows you the difference in the climate and the fact that you don't need to be super high in the hills to get avalanches, which are deadly. So yeah, sad story from here. God, it's turned to kind of sleety rain now. Probably still see it up the glen behind me coming down thick and fast. I think these hills might be white by the end of the weekend. Right, I do need to make up some ground because I just don't want to be cycling in the dark. I've still got a long way to go, way over yonder. So there is blue skies down there, which is promising. So right, let's go. I'll bring you back when I'm through the pass.
It was a captain who died. It was Captain John McPherson, who was often called the Black Officer and was said to be in league with the devil for some reason. He also fought in the 45 uprising for the Jacobites, but it was himself and 3 others who perished in the avalanche, known as the catastrophe of the Gaick.
Well, this is wonderful. It's a bit like, reminds me of the cycle down Glen Lyon when I crossed Scotland from Fort William to Perth. In fact, this Cairngorms loop is going to be longer than that. I think that was about 180 kilometres when I did that. But I just remember the cycle down, and it was wonderful. So this is Glen Tromsey now, and gone are the steep-sided slopes of the Gaick, and it's kind of opening out a wee bit, and you can see it's almost a tarred road. It's kind of coming and going. And when I say that, it's like breaking up into a 4x4 track, but it's a gentle downhill gradient. It's just wonderful not having to pedal. I was up at over 500 metres at the top of the Gaick Pass, which was nice. And that snow coming in, it felt like I was up at that height. But it's not as cold down here, and they're getting a wee bit of shelter from this forest, from that cold northerly breeze. And you know what? I can actually see some snow as well on the higher than those. It disappeared from sight now, but yeah, I think the Cairngorms themselves, the big ones, are going to be covered in the next few days. So yeah, let's crack on. We're heading to Feshy Bridge now before heading into the Rothiemurchas forest, and then I'll be looking out for a campsite. I think I'm going to try and camp in the forest tonight, and there's a number of reasons for that, which I'll come on to once I've got the tent up. I'm sipping my whiskey. For now, let's enjoy this downhill cycle. Look at this. Wonderful. I'm in the Rothiemurchas forest now. It's been raining for about an hour, not heavily, but still raining. It's been a bit rubbish. I'm hoping it's going to blow through. I've not done many bits to camera really since Glen Tromsey, just because it's been, well, raining, and I just wanted to get the miles in. I'm at about 65 kilometres now, and I reckon I've got about another 15 to go to get to Loch Morlich in about an hour's worth of daylight, so I might just make it before it gets dark. But yeah, that's the situation at the moment. I'll bring you back. Yeah, I think we go past Loch too, so if I get nice views there, I'll bring you back there. But for the moment, it's just head down through the nice sheltered forest. It's not stopping the rain, but it's stopping the wind. Lovely. Nice tracks as well, look at that. Right, bring you back in a wee while. Oh, I'm going to get fleeting glimpses to the Cairngorms. The tops have got a nice white coat on them. So nice wee taste of winter. Right, let's go.
So onwards through the Rothiemurchas estate I went, and some of the tracks were fine, some were a bit narrower, but it was a lovely, lovely place to be. The forest round about here is just superb, with miles upon miles of mountain bike tracks.
Oh, right, just under 70 kilometres done, and here's the lovely Loch and yeah, I've been here with my wife a few times. You pay a fee like £10 to stay overnight in the camper, and we've walked around here with the dogs. It's a lovely walk, and the track's a lot better. Back there, oh, there was a single track, I don't know, for a couple of miles, and oh, it was so rocky, and I was actually off walking and pushing for a lot of it as well, so that slowed me down. So yeah, I think I'm going to get my torch out in preparation for riding in the dark. I've got about another 10 kilometres to go, and I've no idea how good the tracks are. They're a bit better here around the loch, but once I go off here, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a lovely forest. The Rothiemurchas forest in this area is just fantastic. It really is beautiful. So, right, let's shut up and let's see if we can find this pitch in about 10 kilometres. In the dark, probably. Right, let's go. I'm just doing a bit to camera. Just now, the sun's now gone down. The camera's probably compensating, but it's starting to get dark, and I've still got, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe 8 kilometres to go. So, getting some nice views over to the Cairngorms. As I said before, I've got their white coats on. So yeah, I'll bring you back probably in the dark once I've got a spot to pitch the tent. Oh, crossroads here. Which way? Oh, that's the way I went up to see the Scotland's last glacier with Ian Cameron. I think this is that part of the road, I think, that goes up to Glen Enoch. And there's a sign there saying Loch Morlich, so straight ahead we go into the darkness. Right, bring you back later. Let's go.
So the darkness eventually came, but I was keen to keep going. I wanted to get to the forest and the loch to get a bit of shelter and to make the miles up. I only had 3 days to do this, and I didn't want to be moving into a 4th day, and I knew the weather was to get worse as the days went on as well, so I headed off into the dark.
Right, let's see if we can get a pitch down here, not far from the loch, so let's get pitched up. Oh, this spot here looks perfect. I think the tent is going up here. Right, let's get the tent out. Let's get pitched up. Beautiful. The moon. Oh wow. Fantastic. Well, good evening. We've got the tent up. I've had a bite to eat. I've not started my whiskey yet. I've got Ben Rioch tonight, but yeah, that was a bit of a fantastic ride today. There was bits which were really quite tough. Some of the single track through the forest with the big pannier racks on it was a bit tricky, and the the short section beside Loch and Dun, which was definitely a hike and bike for me. Tomorrow, quite worried about tomorrow. I want to try and get a similar distance done to make the third day, relatively easy. I did 80 kilometres today. Well, I think I did. I'll put the stats up now, or at the end of today's section. But yeah, it's a lovely spot here, Loch Morlich. It's a glacial, is it a kettle loch they call them? I can't remember, but yeah, it's a lovely spot. I can see that the moon. It's a full moon tonight. It's been shimmering across the waters of Loch Morlich, and I've got Mila Buchel directly opposite, which I can see. It's quite a lovely night actually, and it's quite calm here. And this is one of the reasons I think I said earlier on. I was going to say why I was hoping to camp in the forest at Loch Morlich. And the reason being is today and tonight is meant to be the strongest winds over the 3 days. So I wanted to be quite sheltered, and it's certainly, as you can see by the wee fire here, the flames are going straight up. It's beautifully sheltered, although it is cold. It's forecast to drop below freezing in Aviemore, which is just down the road. That was the closest settlement I could find on the weather app. So I think the whole of the morning, maybe 3 or 4 hours tomorrow might be quite demanding. Just the route, the description in the book that I was using suggests that there's a fair few bits of trying to find paths and bogs and all that sort of stuff, so I'll just need to be on it. Once I get to Tomintoul, it should be fine, but I'm looking forward to it. Go past the Green Lochan, and then it's between the Green Lochan, past Rivone, Bothy, between there and Tomintoul I'm a bit worried about, but let's see. But yeah, this is just wonderful. I'll report back later on. Oh well, it's getting on a bit. It's not as cold as I thought it would be. They were forecasting freezing temperatures, but it doesn't feel that cold. Maybe the wee fires help it out. Anyway, I thought I'd tell you about some of the myths and legends. Maybe I shouldn't, I might scare myself, but myths and legends of Loch Morlich here. And let me just read this paragraph to you. So, Loch Morlich holds a watery tale. The west side of the loch is believed to be home to the king of the fairies, whilst the east side is guarded by the spectre of the Bloody Hand, a gigantic figure of an old man in Highland warrior dress, one hand dripping with blood, who challenged anyone he met with a fight to the death. By contrast, he was also a champion of the animals, being the guardian of deer and other wild creatures. Well, the west side, I think, is that way. East side is that way. I'm on the south side, so I should be fine. But yeah, I think it's a lovely evening because it's a full moon. The visibility is actually quite clear. It's really quite nice. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I'm just going to sit and chill, have the rest of my whiskey, and I'll probably see you guys in the morning. I'm quite apprehensive about this ride tomorrow. Anyway, more about fairies tomorrow. I'll explain all when we get there. Right, let's have this whiskey. Oh, it's a beautiful, still, well, it's still in the forest. There's still a wee bit of wind, you can see it rippling on the other side of the loch. So I think it was the right side of the loch to camp on and the right decision to camp in the woods. It's cold, it's probably hovering round about, I don't know, 1 or 2 degrees. You can see the snow line on Mila Buchel. It's come down, it's got a white cap on it now. And yeah, just waiting for the sun to come up. Just want to get going as soon as possible. It's going to be another long day. A bit apprehensive about the morning. There's more river crossings as well to be worried about. I'll talk a bit about the river crossings later on actually, because there is quite a few. You probably saw yesterday. I didn't film them all, but there's lots of streams and burns and rivers that need to be crossed. But this is just wonderful. There's something quite satisfying about being on a multi-day adventure. You kind of forget all your problems. All you're worried about is the route ahead, setting up a home for the night. Yeah, it's nice, and getting back in time, that's the only worry I've got. But yeah, hopefully we can make good progress today, which means the final day, well, the final day I'll get back home, and that final day is the 3rd day, not the 4th. But let's see, there's a few obstacles to come. It's very relaxing this morning. Right, I'll bring you back. I'll not videotape the tent down, but I'll bring you back yeah, when I'm on the bike. Right, let's get this tent away.
So I got the tent away, and I really was keen to get going, and as I said, I wanted to get down as far as Braemar today, but it was quite a long and demanding route, especially the first part. But yeah, I headed off, and yeah, as soon as I did that, the snow started.
Right, I've been cycling now for 10-15 minutes, just gone past Glenmore Lodge, which is the outdoor sort of training, education, main one in Scotland, put it that way. If you're coming for outdoor access, outdoor training courses and what have you. Anyway, it's been snowing for the last 10 minutes. It's not lying here, it's kind of footery snow. I don't know if you can make it out in the camera. But yeah, that'll explain why my hands are so cold. So let's go up to find out where the king of the fairies sent his fairies to do their laundry. I'll bring you back there.
I didn't get too far along the track before the snow got heavy enough that it was time to get an extra layer on. Those flakes were starting to get down the back of my neck and get me a bit wet, but yeah, I soon got that layer on, got going and headed towards the Green Lochan.
So I think I talked a wee bit yesterday about, or last night, the king of the fairies being based at Loch Morlich. Well, when his laundry needed done, he sent his fairies up here to get it washed and cleaned. But they'd only do it on a full moon, and you know what? I think it was a full moon last night, or just about. And anyway, you know what happens when fairies wash their clothes and clean the water? Yeah, turns them green. But look, there we go. There is the Green Lochan down yonder. Quite nice wee spot, nice wee beach. And that's the story. I can't remember exactly why it is green. I think it's leaching of minerals as the water comes down this steep hillside on the other side. But on a sunny day, not a wet, snowy one, it does look nice and lime green. Beautiful. There's a nice beach. I'll take you down to the beach. We'll nip down quickly. Why not, eh? Oh, nice wee staircase down. Oh, icy. This wasn't here the last time I was here. This is a new feature. Oh, lovely. Nice, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Lovely. There we go, right. Let's go. Let's go. There's a wee bothy up here called Rothiemurchas. Probably have people into it 'cause it's a really easy one to get to. Well, relatively easy, so we'll head past that and I'll bring you back in a wee while. Oh, a wee bit of snow there. Let's get back on the bike. And we're heading up that way. The tracks at the moment are pretty good. I've done about 5 kilometres, so progress has been steady.
Having left the Green Lochan or Lochan, it was time to head up to the next landmark, which was the Red Bothy. And as I headed towards it, I noticed there was people in there having breakfast, so I didn't go in to give you a tour, but I do have videos in the past where I've been in.
So I've come down from Rothiemurchas. It's lovely forestry here as well. Old ancient Caledonian pines. It's a bit I've never been to, and that's one of the things that I'm really quite excited about. Coming down Glen Tromie yesterday was another place I hadn't been to. I think I called it Glen Tromsey. So people will be screaming at the television saying it's not Glen Tromsey, it's Glen Tromie. If you're a very special person, you probably commented on it. Anyway, yeah, that's one of the things about today that I'm looking forward to as well. I'm kind of exploring areas I've never been to before. And I've been up to Red Bothy quite a few times. I've done Buchel countless times, and I've been up to the Binyock stables and Binyock Moor when I was doing the Monroe round, but no Monroes or Corbett's lie up this way, so yeah, it's all new, and especially the area over towards Tomintoul, but so far it's not been as bad as I thought, but I've not reached the bits where the guidebook says it's bad. Anyway, my hands have warmed up. I was freezing. Now that I'm doing a bit of work going uphill there, my blood's flowing to my hands, so I'm a bit warmer now, so let's get on and I'll report back later on. Right, I've reached the ford. It actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it'd be, but again, like a lot of these river crossings, if this was in Spate, you can see how wide it would be where the pebbles are there. It would be pretty difficult to get across. But yeah, I can see a bit here, so let's see if I can get across. They do say in the book that it might be a bit of bushwhacking around here to find the track again, so yeah, let's go. Still snowing. I'll put you onto onto here for crossing there, so you can see it. So that's the river Nethy Cross, which is great. Somebody's added stones there over years, I suppose, because it is quite deep on the other side, so I tried to balance the bike on the stones. But these pannier bags are waterproof. Let's see if I can do a bit of bushwhacking and see if I can find my way through to the track. Right, that wasn't hard at all. It's fairly easy to find, so just going to open this gate now. There's electrified stuff here, so I need to be careful. I'll bring my bike through and I'll come back and close it. I have to get my feet wet though.
This section of the trail, I didn't do too much filming, one because it was snowing, it was still snowing, and the trail was tough work. There was bits and bobs that I was cycling, it was maybe 50-50, but there was also long bits where I was biking across some boggy terrain with the snow coming down. So I just kind of got my head down and got on with it and tried to make in the miles, but I was aware that I was going so slow, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to get halfway down the proposed route that I was hoping to do. I'm just glad of one thing though, that the river levels weren't high, because there's quite a few substantial rivers round about here. But anyway, onwards I went, and I struggled on, and over the rivers and through the bogs.
I'm still about, I don't know, an hour away from Tomintoul, but I am absolutely famished. It's lunchtime, so again behind schedule, but I need to get something in me because I'm flagging quite badly. Really tiring, so food. Time for some food. I need this. Don't think I've eaten enough, but anyway, all here comes the sunshine. Beautiful, perfect timing. But yeah, as I said earlier, I've never been to this area before, and it does feel like, well, it feels quite remote, but there's a house just over there, but it looks like it's it's empty. And about half a kilometre that way there's a big fancy lodge. So I think, I don't know, I was hoping to get to at least Braemar today, but I'm starting to doubt that. I think I'll be all right. I think this is the toughest part, to be honest with you. And there was a lot back there. There was a lot of single track. Some of it was really quite nice to ride along. Other bits were just torturous, and I spent a lot of the time just pushing the bike. It's, you know, there's icy bits. There was bits with lots of bogs. There was a few river crossings. So yeah, it has slowed me right up that last bit. But hopefully we'll get back onto the track. So there is another bit on the book that says it's a bit boggy and hard to define the track coming up. But I'll be glad when I get to Tomintoul, that's for sure. Right, let's get some lunch. It's amazing how cold you get just standing, even having a hot coffee. I've just had deja vu, isn't it funny that? When you get that you've been here before or done this before, it's very odd. Anyway, right, let's get cracked on and get to Tomintoul. Do a good whisky in Tomintoul. Right, let's generate some heat.
I did need to generate heat. I also needed to make up quite a bit of ground, because at the moment I probably wasn't even a quarter of the way as far as I was wanting to go today. I was really kind of struggling. Anyway, generate heat I did, and I'm glad that I did, because as I gained tight, this part of the track took you over a moor not far off 500 metres, and as I gained tight there was more and more snow covering the ground, something which was going to become more prevalent as the days went on. It was certainly below freezing, and it was certainly cold. So anyway, I soon dropped down off the moor down to a glen called Glen Brown, and in Glen Brown there was this burn which was called the Burn of Brown. I kid you not, I must have crossed this about a zillion times, and again I was just grateful that the river levels were relatively low, and the fact that I had waterproof socks on, to be honest with you. But yeah, this tested my patience. I must admit it wasn't the easiest part of the track. It was pretty tough going, and the fact that I was so far behind.
This section, oh, it's tough. A wee tip, and I've done this, I've been wearing waterproof socks since the start, because I knew there's quite a few river crossings. This river down here, I must have crossed it about 20 times to get to this spot. There's no real path towards the end, and I'm just glad that I found this boggy track now. Just hope it gets better, but that was a nightmare. That would be really tricky if it was in heavy rain, spate conditions. Just, I'd say almost impossible, because I mean, we're quite lucky. One of the reasons that I've done this trip now is that there's not been heavy rain. Well, it's not been much rain in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I just can't imagine doing that if it was in spate. But anyway, I'm just glad that bit's over. Let's get to Tomintoul. Way behind schedule. Way behind schedule. Oh my god. Oh, first wrong turn of the trip. I've just cycled uphill for 1 kilometre, and I should have gone that way. Oh, right. That's not what I needed.
I probably cycled up over 500 metres again in the wrong direction, so I was glad to get back onto the correct track, and it was actually quite a nice, well, it would have been nice if it wasn't blooming freezing and my fingers felt like they were coming off, but anyway, it was quite a nice cycle down towards Tomintoul. Right, let's come out of Tomintoul. It is, what time are we at? 20 past 2, and I thought I'd be in Tomintoul for about 12, so 2.5 hours behind schedule. I have done quite a lot of ascent, about 700 metres of ascent today so far. But anyway, I had a hot chocolate, and I bought myself some extra food just in case I'm out a bit longer at the wee convenience store, which was great. So time to head up Glen Ann now. Hopefully I can get to the top in daylight. The descents might be quite nice down towards Braemar after that, and I might pick up some time and some distance there, but let's just battle on. It's quite a pull now up to the Beerlac, and there's a loching right at the top, but I think that might take me a couple of hours, so I shall report back in a wee while. Although it was uphill up Glen Ann, the track was pretty good, and it was up bits and down bits, and I was starting to make some progress finally. Was it too late in the day though? I think the sun's actually gone down here. It's just 3 o'clock, but it's just because it's a steep-sided
valley, and this is Glen Ann. I've done 46 kilometres. I'm just under 1,000 metres of ascent for today, but I've still got a big pool coming up. And this has been great actually. Since I left Tomintoul, I wasn't expecting it. This road's sort of turned into a 4x4 track now, or an estate track, but it was tarred up until about a mile back, so I really got some good speed and good miles in. So yeah, I think I've got an hour until the sun goes down, and then probably an hour after that, and then it'll be out with the torch. I think I will ride in the dark. We'll see. It's going to be quite a stiff pull up to the Bealach, but after that there's a nice descent. So let's get going. I'll bring you back up at the Lochan.
Up I went, and this is actually Glen Bullock now, not Glen Ann, but it starts to rise up. As I said, the Lochan at the head of the glen sits again about 500 metres, and you know, it was getting towards sunset again. There wasn't too much time and daylight left, and I still had a long way to go to get down to Braemar. But I was glad when I approached the loch and the track, but again it was single track at this point, although I knew if I just persevered and pushed on it was going back to normal track after the loch, which would allow a bit more speedy progress.
Right, not quite at the high point yet. I've gone past the loch. It's blowing a hoolie actually. You probably can't hear this, and it's freezing. It is literally freezing. The puddles are all frozen over. My pannier rack's completely sheared away. Spent 20 minutes, half an hour trying to fix that and move stuff into my bag. Oh, it's a disaster. Let's try and descend, get to the high point. I'll come back to there, and then hopefully just head as far down out of this wind as we can. Let's go.
This map just shows where I was and where the high point was, and I was hoping once I got to the high point that it was going to be nice and easy, a nice freewheel down the glen to Braemar, but I didn't actually quite realise how much of an ascent it was to get to the high point. It was around about just under 750 metres, and by now it was, well, the sun had gone down hours ago, and as I climbed higher and higher, it just got windier and windier and colder and colder. It was pretty brutal, but I didn't have any choice now. I was committed. I needed to get up to that high point before the descent down towards Braemar.
Right, hopefully you can see me and hear me. I'm nearly at 780 metres or something like that, and I'm hoping this is the high point. Just had to push the bike up a bloody mountain.
So at this point it kind of just goes to show how cold it was, because my microphone battery failed, and it was something which was to happen in the next kind of hour or so. My phone battery died and my torches were dying and all sorts, but basically I was just saying it was blooming cold and I just needed to descend, and I didn't think I was going to get to Braemar. In fact, I was just looking for the first available campsite because it was absolutely freezing.
Oh right, I've come to a bit of trees. It's too good to go past. I'm tired, I'm cold. I've descended quickly off the mountain. I'll come on to that once I've got the tent up, but for now I'm just going to get the tent up. My head torch was left, had switched itself on in the bag, so it's next to useless. So I'm using I'm improvising and using the bike light. But you know what? Let's just get this up. I'm just moving all these cones out the way. There's lots of cones and wee sticks here. Just for me putting the tent down. Right, there we go. I'll tell you what, I'm glad to get the tent up. I knew coming down there, I just wanted to find the first available half decent pitch, and with it being so cold, I mean my water's all frozen up. It's absolutely freezing. But with it being so cold, I know that usually in forested areas the ground doesn't freeze as easily, so I can get my pegs in a bit easier. So, but that was a tough day. I looked at the stats. 64 kilometres and 1500 metres of ascent. Yeah, it was tough going. There were sections which were lovely, but there was bits where I was just pushing, and I maybe shouldn't have pushed on up and over the pass to the highest point. I mean, that was at about I don't know, 750 to 800 metres. It was a stone's throw away from the top of a corbett called Cairngorms, which sits at 900 metres, which I've done before. And it was wild up there, it really was wild, and all my batteries were dying, my phone was dying, my cameras were dying. It was just icy cold, and the snow on the ground and the ice underneath the snow made for an interesting descent on the bike, which I didn't film too much of. So it's been a testing day today. It really has been. I was hoping to get as far as Braemar. I'm not going to do that. Obviously, I'm still at about 470 metres in altitude, so there's a few gusts coming through, but as I said, I was just getting cold and I was tired and I was hungry, so yeah, I'm just glad to have got the tent up, and the fire's really helping. It's lovely. I always have my wee stove, I put a stone underneath it, and yeah, it's just something, just heats me up along with my whiskey. So tomorrow, still got 50 or 60 kilometres to do, but unfamiliar territory. I'll be heading along part of the route that I took when I walked from Aviemore to Perth, and then one of the reasons I decided to come this way was for the very end, and I'll explain all tomorrow, but for now I'm just going to chill. I probably won't do too many bits to camera because yeah, I'm tired, and yeah, I'm just going to enjoy my whiskey, so I'll probably see you guys in the morning. Right, as you can see, it's a rather messy camp. I'm just starting to break things down and get ready to go on the bike. I think I've got about 50 or 60, well maybe 60 or 70 kilometres, I've not actually checked. But I'm really looking forward to today. It's looking like a lovely sunny day, hopefully. The hills are all capped with snow, which is fantastic. It was freezing, my boots were all frozen this morning, and trying to get filtered water out, I just ended up just going to the stream and boiling the water because I couldn't filter any because it was frozen solid, which is a pain. So I came a wee bit off route last night in the dark. I'm about 200 or 300 metres off the main route. I'm not sure if this road here is taking me through a private estate. Well, what I mean by that is it's in their coldest estate, and I'm not sure if the stables will have locked gates or big gates. Anyway, I'm going to backtrack a wee bit and go back up and then down the road that I'm meant to be in. And it should be a nice downhill, and then after that most of it's steadily uphill until that wee surprise at the end that I'm going to tell you about. But yeah, it's a lovely morning and it's time to get all this away, and I also need to spend a bit of time trying to fix the panniers. They've just come off, they've sheared off completely, and it's a bit wobbly. One's kind of half on, the other one's off, so that's not great, but that's causing me a bit of a headache. It's been a bit of a worry, to be honest with you, which has been disappointing. But anyway, shut up buddy, let's get back to it. I'll bring you back when I'm on the track. Oh my god, my feet are like blocks of ice already. Need some sunshine to warm this place up. I'll tell you at the end as well, my new piece of kit, which has been absolutely brilliant. And it's not the panniers, I'll tell you that. I shall tell you in a wee while what it is. A game changer. That's me back up. I don't know if you can see down there, that's the track I went down last night inadvertently. And I was camped down at the bottom of those trees, but wow, what a view. The sun's just coming over the horizon. You can see down towards Braemar and along where the sun's shining down there, that's where I'll be heading. Away along there towards those snowy mountains, so it's a long way away yet. A lot of cycling to be done, but yeah, come on sunshine. It's out over there. I want it over here. Try and melt some of this ice. Whee!
It was a lovely descent down to Invercold, and then along the road there's a short road section which goes past Braemar Castle, which is just over my shoulder there, and then into Braemar, and then it was the cycle along towards the Linn.
Oh, right. I've made some mileage up. How far have I gone? It's 16 kilometres. About 160 metres of ascent done already. It's 10:30, been going for about an hour, maybe just over an hour, and surprisingly on a Monday morning there was nothing open in Braemar. So I've whizzed along, and I'll show you this way actually. Look at this, isn't this lovely, this bridge. A well-known landmark to many, including myself. I come here quite a lot, and yeah, it's cold. I heard on the radio it was -8 in Braemar this morning, so that'll be why I can't feel my feet or my hands. And everything's frozen, all the puddles are frozen, so I just had to take it canny. But yeah, lovely. So I'm going to head on to the Linn, and then I'm going to make my way to a Bothy and stop at the Bothy for something to eat for lunch. And then I'm looking forward to the final stretch. I'll maybe tell you about that at the Bothy. Yeah, what a lovely spot. I just wish the sun would come over the hill, because it's been in the shade and that's not been heating things up, but I know that once I get past the Linn I should be in the sun. Bring you back in a wee while.
So I was correct, once I'd got across the Linn and onto the other side of the glen, I was in the sunshine, but I tell you what, it was still absolutely freezing, and I was looking forward to getting to the Bothy and getting the stove on and heating up with a nice hot drink.
Lovely. Well, this is I can't remember what it's called, the Red Bothy maybe, Red Bothy. And oh, so glad that it's here. Put it this way, it's actually quite warm inside, but it feels warm in comparison to outside. It's just perfect, and I'm defrosting quite nicely, but let's get a brew on and heat up. Oh, right. Oh, this is such a welcome stop, and I suppose that's the good thing about Bothy's. They've come to my rescue in a few times. West Highland way and a snowstorm comes to mind, but anyway, yeah, the next section of the ride is yeah, it's single track, steep sided slopes. I have done this bit before when I walked from Aviemore to Perth, and then it's the final stretch, which I'll come on to in a wee while. But yeah, the Cairngorms, I think this is, I don't know if it's exact, there's different sort of variations of it, but it's what I would call the Cairngorm outer loop. And one of the reasons I did this was I was actually short in time and didn't have much time to plan, believe it or not. I was going to be trying to do a route, I don't know, somewhere like Inverness to Perth or somewhere to Perth, a bit like what I did before, but I didn't have the time to plan it. So I was looking at this. I'd been watching an excellent YouTuber called Alex. His channel's called Mispronounced Adventures, and he'd done the Cairngorm loop, a variation of it, slightly longer than this, and that's what put it in my head. So initially I thought, oh, there's actually two different loops. There's the inner loop and the outer loop, and I thought the inner loop, which is shorter, would be the easier of the two, but I'm glad I did research that, because that, although shorter, is far more difficult. There's a lot more pushing and technical riding in that one. This one's been fantastic, and barring any mishaps, the riding's been pretty good. You could probably do it on a gravel bike at a push if you're good enough, but yeah, wonderful experience so far. So I'm going to have some dinner, chicken and bacon butty that I picked up at the Tomintoul services yesterday, and yeah, I'll bring you back in a wee while. Oh, nice. Right. Right, left the place nice and tidy. Oh, that's a welcome break, right. Next I've got a river crossing. I've got to cross the Gaick Burn, and it looks a bit icy, like very icy. The good thing is it's not rained very much in the last few weeks, so the level isn't high, so I'm hoping my waterproof socks will keep my feet dry, because I don't want wet feet, because they'll just turn into blocks of ice in this temperature. Right, let's go down and cross the Gaick Burn. Oh, I've still not told you what the new piece of gear is. That's a game changer. I must remember and do that before before the trip's over. Right, let's go.
So I had left the Bothy, and I could see where I was wanting to go, down the strath towards that big mountain which is part of MacLoed. But before I got there I had to do the river crossing, which is what you're going to see in a minute. But as you see me crossing the Gaick Burn, which can be almost impassable, as you can see it's quite wide. If it's high you're not going to get across it, but it was just icy, and again glad of the socks. But going back to the Bothy, it's sometimes known as the Red House, or it was been known as Lower Gaick Lodge, and it was built in the early 19th century, and shepherds and gamekeepers have stayed in there. At one census there were 7 people living in it. There was a father and mother with their 5 children, and as it became a Bothy, somebody called Sid Scroggy used it, and he was famous because he was a hiker, but he'd lost his sight and his leg in World War II, but continued to hike in the Cairngorms afterwards. Oh, right, sometimes I've been moaning that it's been so cold, but sometimes the frost can actually help. I've just gone to come across some really boggy ground, but it's all frozen. Right, there you can see that, and all the ice there, that's all well frozen, which has meant I've not been sinking into the into the bog as much. That's an advantage. One other thing I was going to say is the Bothy's maintained by volunteers, the Mountain Bothy Association, so go and donate to them if you use the Bothy's. They keep them nice and keep them habitable and stop them from going into deterioration and derelict ruins and all that sort of stuff. But, right, let's get to the head of this. Once I'm at the head of this pass, it should be easy going, and the good part, which I left to the end, which I'll tell you all about. Right, for now though, let's keep moving. Let's keep my fingers and my toes warm. At this time of the year, there's not much daylight hours, as you've probably seen from the video, but the other thing is the sun doesn't get too high in the sky, so there's only a short period of time during the day where it actually generates any warmth. And for me, this part of the trip, it was just doing that. It was just lovely.
Oh, it's been delightful since leaving the Bothy. The wind's died down, and as you can see the sun's been out. It's been absolutely glorious, and I've just dropped in here, this steep sided valley. This is the Algar Buoy stream, and I've stopped here because I don't know if you recognise this, but here I had to drop down and cross this stream when I did I can't remember what it was, Aviemore to Perth one, which I've talked about before, and you can go up there and it's a wonderful glen, takes you down towards Glen Shea and what have you, but I'm not going there. Whew. I'm going to be continuing to follow this cleft down here, and next stop will be the Falls of Tarf, and once I'm there I'm almost at the good bit. This steep sided gorge here, the single track in places has been great, but most of the time I've been pushing it, and pushing along single track ends up pedals whacking back of calves. I'm going to have bruised calves tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to getting onto a bigger track, but let's get to the Falls of Tarf, and yeah, I'll report back there.
Although I'm showing you me riding along this single trail, I'd probably say that 80% of the time I was actually pushing the bike, because it was it was like this, terrain like this. You could cycle it if you were a competent mountain biker, but I wasn't going to risk it. But yeah, before long I was reaching the Falls of Tarf.
Right, I've made it to this wonderful spot. This would be an ideal spot to camp actually. Unfortunately some idiot's already been here. Look, that's what happens when you have a fire and it's not off the ground. Anyway, I'm at the Falls of Tarf. You can see them behind me there. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that. And the bridge spanning it, which I'll be going across in a wee while. But it's a lovely remote feeling place, just like a lot of this trip has been. Absolutely wonderful. And the next and final stage is a wonderful, wonderful glen called Glen Tilt, and I'll tell you the reason it's called Glen Tilt once I get up onto the 4x4 track. But for now, yeah, I'm going to get across here and just keep on pushing the bike until the point I can cycle it again. Look at this one, wonderful.
So the bridge was built after a young man called Francis John Bedford had died there in 1879 due to drowning. He was only 18 years old. So the Scottish Rights of Way Society built it in 1886. More of this later on.
Ooh. Single track finishes maybe 200 yards, 200 metres after the tar falls, and here behind me is the start of the track. Ooh. And this is a very, very lovely track. It goes down a glen called Glen Tilt. And the meaning behind Glen Tilt, the reason it was called Glen Tilt, is cyclists like me realised that the glen was on a lovely tilt, just the right gradient for freewheeling down. Apart from this first bit, there's a bit uphill, but you'll see what I mean. So that's how they gave it the name Glen Tilt, because of the tilt of the glen floor, allowing cyclists to go down it really quickly. It's also a location of, I think, some access rights. I can't remember. I'll do a voiceover shortly as I'm whizzing down the glen and tell you the story about that. But yeah, Blair Athol, where the cars part, has a castle, Blair Castle. I'm pretty sure it was a estate owner who didn't like people trespassing before the right to roam and all that came in, way back in the day. But I'll tell you all about that in a minute. Let's get going, because we're going to be losing light soon and I want to get back to the car. I am looking forward to this, but I'll bring you back later.
We're very lucky in Scotland to have the right to roam around wild areas such as this. But Glen Tilt was actually the site many years ago for the Battle of Glen Tilt, where a number of botanists, I think it was a chap called John Balfour, he was the botanist and taking the students up there, and they were denied access by the Duke of Atholl. Anyway, that led to a dispute, and the Scotways Society brought it up in court, and eventually access was given, probably much to the frustration of the Duke and his army and all that sort of stuff. But it's very interesting. There's more to it. If you search for it on the internet, you'll find some very interesting information on the battle and how it has affected access rights in Scotland. Anyway, it was blooming freezing and the sun had gone down, and I was just keen to get back down, and before long I was reaching Blair Athol. Right, that's me back in the car. Not really done that many bits to camera because the cameras are all failing. It's freezing. It is, according to the dashboard there, -4, so pretty cold. So I'm just going to get going, so I'm starving, I'm cold. I'll report back and do a synopsis in the office in a second. Okay, back in the office. It's probably a few weeks later, and what a trip that was. It's taken me some time to edit it. But anyway, just quickly, let's look at the stats from day 3, that last day. So on day 3, it was just under 60 kilometres, 59.5 kilometres travelled, 605 metres of ascent, which is more than I thought it would be, but it was the coldest day by far. In fact, that evening when I got back to the car, the thermostat was staying about, I can't remember, -4. It was -6 when I left by the time I'd got my bike packed in. But that night, it was the coldest night for an early winter's day in Braemar or in Scotland since 1996. It was -11.7 in Braemar. So that'll explain why I was so cold. It was that, yeah, the whole trip was pretty cold. And that kind of brings me on nicely to the best time of year to do it. So the best time of year, as I always say, is spring. But you know what? If we did everything in spring, the rest of the year would be pretty boring. So as long as you've got the right gear, which I did, I had the number of head torches, a number of torches, which came in really useful because apart from the last day, I did have to cycle into the night. And let's remember that sunset was round about 3:55, 4 o'clock-ish. So it was getting pretty dark. And when you were in the glens, the sun was going down probably an hour before that, because you're kind of enclosed in. So it was pretty cold. I could have chosen to do it over more days. Well, I couldn't have actually, because I only had that number of days off work. I only had that specific amount of time. So I did have to fit it into 3 days. But you could do it at a more leisurely pace. As I mentioned in the video, there's also something called the inner loop, which is I think it's more technical. It's shorter. You can do them all together. There's loads and loads of different variations that you can do. There's different glens. Because all these glens have 4x4 tracks and access tracks into them, there's endless possible combinations that you could do. So really good, fantastic. In total, my distance was 202.6 kilometres. Total ascent over the 3 days was 3,169 metres. And most days I was cycling. First day I was cycling for over 9 hours. Second day 9.5 hours, and then the final day it was 7.5 years. Felt like that in the cold, I tell you. 7.5 hours, and that you got to factor in the time that I've taken for filming and stuff like that. So yeah, really good fun, fantastic. A few bits about the gear. Now I don't think I actually told you what the game-changing piece of gear was. But first of all, let me give you an update on the pannier racks. I've contacted the company. They came back immediately. Customer support, I must admit, were absolutely brilliant, and they're sending me more, a replacement for the pannier racks. They have replaced the rivets, apparently, that were used, and they're using different rivets, so that's good. And the other piece of kit that I kept banging on about, and I never got round to telling you, because I was hoping to do a bit to camera when I got to Blair Athol, but because it was so cold I just wanted to get home. But it was the kickstand on the bike, something as simple as that. I think I bought it for £8 off Amazon, and my God, it was a game changer, because all the other trips that I've done with the bike, every time I've stopped, which is a lot, you won't see how many times I stop to film, I have to lay the bike down carefully. If I have to get something out of the pannier racks, it's an absolute pain. So I can't believe I've never got a kickstand, because I just kicked the stand down, the bag was up, I could go into the bags dead easily. I could use them as like a table at times. So absolutely fantastic piece of kit. But yeah, anyway, that was that. That was my trip around the Cairngorms loop. Can highly recommend it. The tracks, in the most part, were excellent. There are some bits where you had to get off and push, which is what you get most of the time anyway in these sort of long distance trails. So yeah, I'm going to stop yabbering on now. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, stay safe out there, and yeah, I'll see you next week for another adventure. Right, time to finish off this editing.